blockchain system that many mentioned. This is like the only truly transparent way where everyone can ensure. Like you can build it in different ways. You can, I don't know, there are ways to build it in different ways. But this is a simple usage that also shows that like people need this stuff because humans are humans, and you need like some mechanics that people understand that they can align on. And secondly, for me, like I'm particularly very interested in monitoring what's happening with application of blockchain for governance. So I think that's one of the things where it will shine the most and also get the most pushback in a sense. In many ways, but let's see how it will evolve.
Interesting. I am a Ethereum developer. I have my team. DeFi project. What is required? You're in the platform business, guys. What is required for me to be part of your platform? What is the way? What are the tools? How it looks like?
Learn Solidity. Step one.
Already?
Actually, sorry, no, learn programming, or if you haven't already, we just formed a team, learn Solidity. I can't say that I can talk too much about like the DeFi aspect of things, although that, you know, I will say though, one thing, and I think there's not enough emphasis on this, and I was at like a security panel recently, which just freaks me out every time I'm at one of those. There was like, a panelist from, I think from Securum and a few other, and they were saying, look guys, the hacking today, it's just going to happen more. This is the new normal, right? So if you're going into DeFi, security audits heavily to something that you should be doing, and then getting onto our platform, it's like, there's not really much difference between us and Ethereum in that sense. It's just like cheaper transactions, right? So if you have some existing contracts that are on Ethereum, we have bridging solutions to be able to easily bridge that between Ethereum and Polygon Matic. So that's an easy way. So you're, hey, like I'm already like, yo, my fees are racking up on Ethereum. You know, there is an easy way to be able to port that over as well.
So how much does it take to implement integration with the Polygon for Meetup?
So like, let's say if you're
in average, yeah,
like let's say you have an Ethereum app and you want to port it over.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually really, really simple. It depends how many contracts you are and how they communicate with each other, obviously. But like, yeah, we have a few bridging on our Plasma and POS system, whatnot, which is easy to. I forget what the name is. There's a URL. You could literally just post in a contract, and sometimes it takes up to 3 days, but it will copy, as long as your ABI is public on Etherscan, it will actually port that information directly over and do a map one-to-one.
Nice. So, nice, yeah.
So pretty easy, I think. Maybe not as easy as modular though, maybe.
I don't know if necessarily like going from Solidity. So Fuel is built, we have our own virtual machine, we have our own DSL, Sway, which is a Rust-like language, and we have our own tool chain. And so for developers who are familiar with Rust, which many are, it's actually quite easy to pick up Sway and develop an understanding and get started writing contracts and deploying things to testnet. The real benefit of that also is that because it's all sort of like one package, like everything is maintained and up to date and in sync with everything else. So you're not running into like dependency issues or navigating like the terror of like ensuring that, you know, your development environment is like everything is like set up properly to build on Ethereum. So that's to like, I don't know, I think it's just like a different way of approaching it. So like, sure, you can't copy and paste Solidity contracts into Sway, but it is, I'd say, not non-trivial, but somewhere in between from being able to rewrite them that way.
Yeah, so I mean, in the case of Neon, it's more or less copy-paste. You know, there's going to be some situations depending on what you're building. There might be an opcode not yet supported or something like that. It's happened in the past, and you know, it's been, you know, it takes a couple of days or maybe a week for us to add that compatibility. You know, I think, but just in terms of like, okay, you're an Ethereum developer and you want to get involved in this new community, I would maybe also just say like, you know, I think the kind of like decentralized ethos of crypto has changed the way that these, basically shared computing systems, like they can actually support you. So for example, like you have a problem with your Apple or your Mac or whatever, you kind of reach out to customer support, and that's your interface to the organization. In the case of like Neon or Polygon or Aurora or Fuel, like these are entities with developer relations and business developers, marketers. So what I would say is, these people are a lot more willing to help than you might expect in traditional tech or finance. Like reach out to the teams, get on their Discords, share a little bit about what you're building. If you're having any difficulties debugging stuff, just like reach out, because what you'll find is that they want to help you. They might even help fund you, that's how these ecosystems grow beyond just like the technical aspects of scalability. It's really about like how do we share these values with you?
Yeah, for us it's pretty much the same as for everyone else. And like the original goal was that you just add a new endpoint to deploy your contracts to, depending on your configuration. Like you might need to update dependencies, deploy scripts, etc., but it's absolutely the same as in Ethereum. So yeah, pretty much that.
Okay, the same toolkit, but for me, as DeFi team, okay, some type of, I need to manage number of lines of code, okay, to manage number of projects to support each and every platform in some way. How to attract those developers? What type of, James already mentioned something. What do you give us as a developers to come and to be deployed on your platform?
You want to reverse the order?
Yeah, start with
So, depending, like, first of all, do you mean existing?
I mean, any program for developers. I mean, I understand you can share, okay, this is documentation, deploy a smart contract, this is the toolkit, let's go.
We're talking
but what's next? Yeah.
We're talking about existing Ethereum engineers.
Yeah, existing and new also, by the way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. I mean, like, I think it's in many ways the process is kind of like bidirectional in the sense that first of all, like engineers want to build on chain and choose to do it with EVM, right? Like this is a prerequisite for what we're talking about. After that, it's up to us to sell it to them and up to them to pick the functionality that shines on a specific chain, I would say. And yeah, a big part is the support of the community, the support of the ecosystem. Like for instance, for us, a big thing that we have been working recently is interoperability between native NIR and native Aurora, which gives benefits to both. It's same ecosystem, right? But it's, to best of my knowledge, the only ecosystem so far where you can interact between DeFi applications, kind of cross-chain, but not really cross-chain, cross-contract. But the details doesn't matter; they are nicely abstracted away from the end user. So I think it goes to things like that. And again, like to solutions. For instance, we talked about an enterprise. In NIR ecosystem, we have Calimero, who are providing I think they're going to production soon, quite soon. But the idea there is to provide private shards for enterprises. So, and when you provide a private NIR shard, you can absolutely in the same way provide private Aurora shards. And it's also up to us to hook it up into the infrastructure. But again, you kind of as a developer, you just shop for the solution that suits your needs. And that's again where building for EVM gives you much more choice and much more flexibility down the line. So imagine you build on solution A, then at some point you understood that, okay, I want to try a solution B because I actually think that this and this feature will really benefit my use case. You try it, and for you to try, it's not really that hard. So, and it also the very important part here is that it keeps the healthy competition, because for people to migrate across EVM ecosystem is also not that hard. So I think it's very important, especially for the early days. Kind of, we can call the Web3 still early days. So I think it's very important to have that.
Thank you.
So yeah, one of our main focuses at Fuel, and in terms of adopting developers and getting more people to experiment with the modular stack and just like generally like modular ideology, is to provide just an incredibly good developer experience. And I mentioned this earlier, but having everything sort of within one little environment, like our own toolchain, fork, our own language, our own VM, and also just like an incredibly active support community in our Discord and soon to be launched forum as well. It just like it fosters this community of people who are really looking to innovate and try something new and almost like band together around something that they find to be interesting, and that it's like just a very different way of doing things, and that I think creates and fosters like a very strong community. And when you have a strong community, like that's externally seen, and then more people join the community. And just so by putting an emphasis on devs and really like truly caring about them on like a one-to-one level, I think we really, that's one of the areas where we definitely shine.
Can I just ask, because this is the one non-EVM on the panel, right? So many of us are in like kind of the Solidity world. Well, I think it's interesting. So like as you guys grow this ecosystem, where are you finding that these developers are coming from? Are they existing blockchain developers that want kind of new tools, maybe because they're upset with like what exists for them already, or are you more reaching externally to blockchains to get people to, how are you guys approaching this, and what does it look like right now?
So these devs come from like quite a few different areas. I mean, there are of course people who are just like totally new to blockchain and have never done anything. They may have like worked on some stuff in Rust before, and they see like a new language that's Rust-like, and they're like, oh, that looks cool. And like they adopt that and pick it up and come in and join the community. There are also like quite a few devs who are, I wouldn't say like upset or frustrated, but just over time, the constraints of the EVM have led them to a place where they're looking for something that like can truly like usher in this like next era of how we can like think about blockchains. There's quite a few benefits to Fuel. I mean, we have like a very different system. Like we're not even an account-based architecture. Like the Fuel VM is UTXO based. And traditionally, like UTXOs, when used for smart contracts, like it doesn't work that well. But we've determined a way to use like strict access lists, inherited contract IDs, and everything to actually create these UTXOs that retain like all the benefits of being able to like run smart contracts while still being essentially creating like a very highly scalable solution. And that's what enables multi-threading, which enables like much more efficiency even at the compute level. And that just like is recognized when people are building applications and they realize like all of these benefits like may never come to the EVM because there are certain upgrades that you just can't implement because it would just destroy backwards compatibility and like wreck a bunch of contracts, which is probably not good, but I don't know, remains to be seen. But yeah, I mean, it's just developers who are looking for like a good experience, and we show them a good time,
Thank you.
Welcome.
Is this our...
Oh, I'm just giving it back.
We tried to also show them a good time as well, yes. Maybe you can repeat the question one more time so I'm trying to like remember exactly.
Let me ask another question.
Oh, okay. That's great. Everybody gets the same question except for me.
Anton mentioned in the beginning, if Ethereum was created in the right way.
Was it created in the right way?
If in the beginning it was created in the right way.
So if I was Vitalik.
Yes.
Scalable way, scalable, I mean.
Yeah.
And actually Vitalik mentioned, okay, scalability and layer 2 and EVMs are necessary, right? From other hand, each platform face the scalability dilemma, security, decentralization, scalability, how you deal. I mean, it's make the solution to be much more complex, modular, a lot of components, and it's a lot of entry points for everything, especially security. How you deal with it in Polygon? Trilemma.
Yeah. We deal with it actually with a few different solutions, right? Again, it really depends on, if we're thinking like general populace, our solution ZKVM, right? Like it's type 2, if you read Vitalik's blog on ZKVMs rather. So it's really like, I think it's ZKM equivalent is the word. So again, like you have all the advantages of the security from your L1s, and it's you can have these cryptographic proofs to be able to prove that the transactions go. You don't have to deal with optimistic rollups. Like the security is there, like, and there's no like holding of funds and all that jazz. When it comes to like enterprise solutions, funny enough, we do have like some solutions that are kind of abstracted, like for data layers as well. It's kind of similar to the modular aspect, but we offer them as like individual services at Polygon. I haven't dived too much or played around with it myself, but I do know like, hey, we have things that are specifically if there's another chain or a new blockchain that's kind of coming up and they need a specific type of service or whatnot from that, we offer that as an individual, silo type of service that they can take advantage of, right? But yeah, we just handle it by abstracting different pieces, and then obviously our main product, which is, ZKVM in terms of trying to handle scalability and security. Hopefully that answers your question. Like, I feel like I'm lost again.
General question, general answer. But James, decentralization. How about Neon? How you are going to decentralize platform?
Yeah, so as previously mentioned, Neon is not a separate blockchain. It's a Solana smart contract primarily, and what that means is that consensus and security and things like this are largely derived from Solana, which has somewhere over 3,000. I believe 2,000 validators and Nakamoto coefficient of somewhere over 30 at this point. The attack vectors for Neon would be the on-chain program, so the Neon EVM itself, which we have audited 4 times at this point. That's definitely no representation of what might happen on mainnet. Then there's also kind of like the penetration testing for the proxy, which is, for those unfamiliar, the proxy in Neon is sort of taking in Ethereum-like transactions, wrapping them into Solana format transactions so that they can be executed by Solana validators. So making sure that it's non-custodial, but at the same time, making sure that it can't be exploited. And, you basically audit like crazy. You put in controls perhaps for us at the governance level so that an attacker trying to access the treasury is actually not able to withdraw certain amounts. There's basically a kill switch, and then of course bug bounty and other community-led initiatives. But security in crypto is not easy, and it's also very expensive.
All right, so so in terms of decentralization, one of the things that I think is really cool about Fuel is that because we have this UTXO model and these strict access lists and all of these things that enable multi-threading, the actual compute resource requirements for running anything that would verify the transactions on the network is very low. The hardware requirements just simply aren't that high because you can make more use of your processor. The EVM is constrained to a single thread, and that's not necessarily that great. So you have to basically process everything sequentially. When you enable multi-threading and you can do more transactions and just process everything sort of non-sequentially, there's a lot of advantages there. In terms of the actual security, part of what we put an emphasis on with Sway and Fork is just insanely good error reporting. So because again, we have this whole suite that we've put together for smart contract development, it's actually very I won't say easy, but it's easier to verify like the integrity of your smart contracts and to ensure that like what you're doing is, I feel like there's just generally like confidence there that you wouldn't necessarily have in Solidity. And then on the scalability side, I think, well, yeah, I mean, you can certainly run more things to verify or more pieces of hardware to verify transactions, and yeah, you can just do a lot more that way.
We're again in the same boat, and you know, it's like for Near, there's like 3 S's: security, scalability, and simplicity. So again, the overall, you can think about Aurora as an Ethereum-compatible interface to Near. So especially in terms of scalability and security, it's all handled by them. Beautifully done before, always improving, development further, etc. There is a lot of material about how that's achieved. And again, one of the biggest focuses was sharding. That is, will be completely rolled out, I think, by the end of next year. And now it's our job to also expose kind of sharding through Aurora and solve that challenge that we have ongoing. But yeah, the security aspect for us now boils down to bridging and to on-chain programs. Same as for you guys. So.
Okay, and the last question, and we will give the opportunity to ask questions from the audience. What is the future of your projects in 3 years? Okay, but I will complicate the question. Ethereum works on sharding and rollup also. So how you see future of your projects based on the progress of the ecosystem? Anton?
3 to 5 years and Ethereum sharding doesn't sound too scary. Yeah, but again, I think that one of the biggest directions these days, and we can see it from all aspects, from what everyone mentioned, is also targeting the mass adoption, really. Like, not just talking about it, but actually achieving that. So I think the future is there, and I think that there is a lot of, a big part of the future, hopefully, is also in governance all over the world, adopting it on all sorts of levels. To ensure transparency, to ensure that everyone's heard, and to ensure that everyone's also educated. So it's a very, I feel like it's, you know, like the beauty peasant contest type of answer, but I think it's at the same time sums it up nicely.
Thank you, Anton.
Okay, 3 to 5 years. I mean, I think there will be a shift in just like general ideology away from monolithic structures to modular structures. There will be more systems that function as just like what Fuel is doing, like a modular execution layer, which allows just for easier access to these systems for developers and then easier usability for users. There's just going to be some form of migration to these systems. Like when you can take all of these like various benefits and sort of combine them and then abstract away difficulties that like a monolithic structure would have down to another component, it just ends with a better experience where there isn't like this fear or just like artificial constraints around what someone is able to do or accomplish. I think we'll see kind of an explosion of this modular narrative over the next few years. But yeah, the future it's very hard to predict. Wish I could.
Honest, yeah. James.
Yeah, so in 3 to 5 years, Neon will be on mainnet. You know.
Now I know.
You know, following that, you know, I think, you know, I actually don't think that Ethereum's scaling roadmap is a major impediment to, you know, even some of these other layer 1 blockchains. I think at this point, people have, well, developers specifically and users have shown that they, you know, want to, you know, try different, I guess, development and execution models And beyond just the technology itself, some of these layer ones have kind of their brands in a way. So they've definitely shown that they can grow distinct user bases from Ethereum, even as Ethereum grows itself. I mean, it's kind of just like a positive sum game, I think. The larger Ethereum gets, the larger the entire ecosystem is going to get. That said, Neon is focused on basically servicing that community of developers. And like we said, I mean, we do think that the future is going to be multi-chain, and if you're going to be multi-chain, then you either need to have some sort of uniformity in terms of development, or the bridges need to really continue to improve in a way that there's, I think they probably handle those abstractions of going between different layer 2s or layer 1s or, application-specific chains like that. So that's what we're building towards.
Short answer, I have no clue, to be honest. I think, I've been in tech for probably 14 years, and I'm sure if you remember, PHP was the thing, and then out of left field, people start bashing JavaScript. But as far as it goes, technology just comes out of left field sometimes, you know what I mean? And I think even, especially in Web3, it moves so fast, right? For us to even come up with predictions, I think we're just it's really hard to say, right? I mean, who would have predicted that Solana came out of left field either, right? But I think that every one of these technologies have we're getting into these language wars almost, or these ecosystem wars, and honestly, it's just a use case for everything that needs to exist, right? It's what you prefer, right? I like mint ice cream. You might like strawberry ice cream, right? So, yeah. But I think that I think what we do though is I can't speak for your guys' companies as well, but we have really smart people that work at our company. No, I'm joking.
Punch.
Yeah, but smarter than me, for sure. Very, very smarter than me. That just have made very smart decisions. I think it's a combination of people you need the right people that can foretell what kind of technology is coming up, and maybe it's modular systems. When you started up in development, as soon as I discovered Docker, I was like, oh my God, a Docker should be on everything, right? So I think that you just need smart people that just know and see the pain points of developers and see where that takes it, and know when to bring it to market. Because if you guys remember, Node, it took almost, I think, 10 years to finally be evangelized for things to actually be mainstream. So things take a long time, and you need to know what's coming up and where people are, when people are ready for that mainstream adoption. So I wouldn't know, but it's just having the right people at the forefront of the company, being able to kind of predict where the market is going, right? So yeah. Wait, I just want to say you guys have really smart people working at your company. So yeah. So yeah. Yes, applause for the smart people at their companies. Yes.
Any questions? Okay, let's do some scalability.
My name is G, so I just a little bit spicy here. So spicy questions for you, because on the bull market it was you spread. It's mostly about the Polygon and Aurora, but it's common for layer 2 blockchains. So you spread millions of dollars on grants or nothing. And right now on the bear market, you almost cut all the grants, and right now it's boredom and nightmare for developers. So you should, so it's better to be understand that self-organized and self-funded teams really have development schedule, technical development schedule. And these people are they're paying from their pocket. And to roll up any DeFi solution or whatever, it's not just enough to deploy a contract. So you need to adapt wallets, you need to adapt backend, frontend, a lot of this stuff. And all of this consuming money and time. But right now, even, I'm sorry guys, it's no offense, but I mean, even Polygon, you're big guys, Aurora, you're big guys, but right now you're in, when you're trying to have a grant, even on audit or whatever. It's so cut it off. It's almost like impossible to have this grant. So actually, DeFi developers, I mean, like the teams, not like solo genius who are developing some stuff like Vitalik or whatever. They really need like grant support, marketing support. I mean, like not just secondary Twitter, like something. So I just want to ask, how you definitely gonna support the real team who gonna just trying to change something, not on words. I'm sorry for that. I mean, cause but it was like from my soul, from the development team, who's trying to knock all these goddamn doors and nobody responds in there. So I mean, it's really huge. It's really cool. You've got a lot of like, but it's nothing for developers at all. I mean, on the bear market. I'm sorry for being like emotional about it.
Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I'd love to.
I'm down. Like I want to. Yeah.
So
Okay, smart people, please face it.
I can tell you that, for instance, for Aurora, our grants program was more or less born only with bear market. Before it was all handled by Near Foundation. So our grants program only started with bear market. And it was like shaping up. So depending on at what point you might have applied for us, it could have been like early days or whatever. So if it was a protest, not like, I mean, I would just suggest reapply. And we give grants, I know for sure, and we try to evaluate teams, try to evaluate what really will bring value,
I think one of the questions, if I understand correctly, sometimes, especially for the new teams, grant is not enough. And probably they ask like marketing and support, to leverage.
Yeah. So over months, we built this whole package that we try to navigate people more towards, which also includes like we have close relations with many VCs. So our grants teams and DeFi analyst teams analyzes projects, helps you to apply for those VCs, makes connections, etc. Because again, like for us, we are not investing as Aurora Labs and Aurora DAO. I don't think also invests. But we do work with investors because, of course, we realize. And again, like if we go back to the AAA games question, it's impossible to build on grants. It's also not always possible to build on the funding. So it's kind of, it's all
starter.
Yeah.
So we have a super active grants program at Fuel. And we're putting a lot of, like, with everything we do, putting emphasis on the developer experience. We're also putting like just a lot of emphasis on the grants program and onboarding new applicants and new people who want to build on Fuel. We take a very personal approach to working with our grantees. Also, my name is Grant and I run the grants program. So, ta-da. But yeah, we put a huge amount of emphasis on ensuring that like our grantees are assisted and taken care of at like all these different stages of building their projects. Because like, it isn't just someone who's necessarily going to like spin up a smart contract and be like, deuces, I'm out. Like these are people who actually like see the future, see a decentralized autonomous future and want to build and be a part of that. And for us to like not put an emphasis on taking care of them and like really interface with them and instead to say, okay, here's a check, go have fun. Like that's not really valuing the people who are really building out what we're all using. So on top of that, we actually are spinning up a whole accelerator program where we'll be providing like marketing support, auditing support, which everyone knows is one of the most expensive parts of deploying, a project on any kind of mainnet. Like it's almost cost prohibitive for new teams to get into DeFi without doing some kind of like major seed round, because it can be like $40,000 to $50,000 for a week of work, if not more, for a simple audit that doesn't even necessarily truly verify the integrity of what you're building. So we're subsidizing the cost of that for all of our grantees who want it, essentially, through a bunch of different auditing firms, which I can't name right now because contracts. And on top of that, like we're doing the same thing for marketing, and we're doing the same thing with backers and helping people like find, like if they are looking to do a seed round after receiving their grant, like we will put them in touch with people who are interested in them and who want to help them. And not who want to help them just to necessarily like print tokens and like make money, but people who actually care about the narrative and what we're all doing and what everyone is sort of building for. Like it's just all about taking care of individuals who want to apply for these programs and who want to build something and may not even have the economic access to get started in the first place. Like we receive a ton of applications from like South America, and all of these developers, again, when they're like looking at the cost to bring in like front end, back end, like marketing support, like UI, UX, it's just like they're just like facing a massive like brick wall. And we're just like busting down these walls for people to give more access to more people who really want to do something cool.
Do you want it, or do you want me to? No?
Yeah, I maybe just a quick take on this. Because I definitely hear you. But I think there's maybe two sides to this, right? I think the bull market was also incredibly, for certain ecosystems, excessive on the grant side of things, and I don't want to name any certain ones, but it definitely fostered a culture of like, okay, we're talented developers, we're going to go out and snipe all of these different kind of grants and hackathon bounties, and they did really, really well. At the same time, and by the way, we see this even with Neon all the time, right? We see teams who are, by every metric, very successful. They could deploy their application very soon. They've got a large following, and they come asking for several $1 million. So that's like the other end of the spectrum. But what I'd say is, and I haven't seen a grant application from you, but what these guys said in terms of ecosystem support is really important. And, I haven't really seen, at least from my standpoint, a slowdown, not with Neon and not with, I feel like I've seen a lot of grants from Polygon and other ecosystems too. So, I always encourage to keep reaching out, but, at the end of the day, it's a capital allocation thing for them too. So depending on the ecosystem you're reaching out to, maybe they're just bad allocators, or, there's some disconnect. It's weird to not have any response at all, even if it's a no.
Just on the note of like the whole accelerators thing, right now, like I think at least what I've seen in terms of the shift of like different chains do is like some of them are like making the shift to become incubators or accelerators, right? What you also have to understand is like, and forgive my French, but that's a very fucking tough thing to do. Like, can you imagine like a chain is like now going to become like a financial institution that has the support and the backing, has all the resources, and do it in a Web3 way, so it's not like a predatory type of accelerator that's like taking 50% of your startup in that sense, right? I think it's a very hard problem to solve, right? I know personally, I have gotten a lot of requests for grants, you know what I mean? Like, am I able to keep up with it? I sometimes, I don't know about you guys, I am regretful for giving out my Telegram sometimes because I just get so many messages, right? And there's so many messages and so many things that we can do in one day, and we're human at the end of the day, right? It's not that we don't want to, but like, let's go back to Web 2 world, right? The greatest startups and the people that were really, really great was because of persistence, right? So if you are persistent, really believe in your project, right? And it's not like, hey, I created another NFT marketplace, then you really, like if you have an actual use case, then yeah. I think that all of us here also look at the projects and think like, is there an actual use case for this? Like, do we need another DEX? Like, do we really need that? And I think all of us have had that experience to be able to actually validate, or I'm seeing different projects to be able to say like, what makes you special? Like, and this is not a Web3 thing. This is what's your competitive advantage, like what, and I think that a lot of tech startups are, at least in the Web3, are not thinking it from a traditional point of view of like, hey, what is your business model? Who are your customers, right? Like, how much are they paying you? Like, what's your burn rate? Like, what's your customer acquisition? Like, what does that look like? Like, if you can't even answer those questions and you're just like, I have code, like great. There's like 10 other guys that probably have the same code. I think I've seen 10 OnlyFans Web3 like submissions as well as like Patreon, and I'm like, great. What makes you special? Like, do you even have a customer base? And marketplaces alone, like that's a fucking hard thing to do. You have 2 customer bases, right? So I think that really, if you have a business case or whatnot, like don't just hound people for it. Like, send them a deck. Like, hey, man, like this is our product. This is our go-to market strategy. This is how we're going to make money, right? You know, like it's a business. You're trying to raise some money, and for us, it's like, hey, we're going to put money towards stuff that obviously grow the ecosystem because you're going to create jobs, and then that's going to hire more Web3 developers, and that just spirals in terms of. Sorry, I'm going on this rant, but you know, like that's where I'm getting at. You know, like at least from a Web2 perspective too, right?
Yeah, it was like startup pitch. Nice.
Yeah.
Another question. By the way, it was very selling question. You have at least number of teams that would ready to give you a grant. Yeah.
Thanks. So just a subject of questions to all of you. From your personal point of view, what's the biggest weakness / pain point that the project you're working on right now has? Yeah. Was I clear? Sorry.
The biggest pain point.
Yeah, so like you speaking for Polygon, what's your biggest pain point that you have right now, or the biggest business need?
Biggest pain point, I think, is just like, I don't think this is just a Polygon thing. I think it's just adoption, right? And I think I was talking to the guys earlier, right? And I was at Web3 Summit, right? And there's just so much more in terms of education. Like I get like at Web Summit, like we're at a crypto like Web3 or like event right here, right? 50% of the questions I got are like, can you explain blockchain to me, right? And I'm like, I mean, like, okay, great. You know, that lets me know like there's a huge amount of potential in terms of growth still, in terms of adoption, and just says that, hey, there's a big point as a whole, as an ecosystem, we just need to focus more on education because it's, you know, people are using it. I'm sure, like you probably have some relative, and you're like, you work at Bitcoin, you know. So, like, I think that there's just a level of education that we just still need to figure out in terms of a big pain point. So, us, like on the more technical side, is just like any other technology, is like adoption from developers to be able to make sure, hey, that they can build cool stuff and give them the support that they need. Whether that's sometimes in grants or sometimes just, I think. One thing I want to highlight is like just the time that we put towards helping people. I don't know about you, like I'm sure you guys do it, like, you know, like in Discord servers and et cetera, and in Telegram, you're like, hey, my line of code doesn't work, and we take the time to be able to put into that, and I think just figuring out a scaling solution for that as well. It's not that we don't want to help people, it's just like time management too. I think those are big issues. Sorry, I don't want to monopolize this again.
Yeah, no, I think those are really good points. You know, I think there's maybe like a technical and there's a non-technical. On the technical side with Neon, just given that we're built on Solana, but the EVM, you know, there's some significant differences in trying to equate these two things. And I think the biggest thing we've run into is that, you know, among some other things, you know, on Ethereum, for example, you can set an arbitrarily high gas limit, and you know, you can your transaction can touch a bunch of state, and it'll be expensive, but it'll go. Solana has a more rigid, you know, compute budget is what it's called, which we have to basically, in certain cases, optimize around. And so, you know, that's just one thing. Also, like ERC20 tokens are different from SPL tokens for both like the NFT standards and to Metaplex, and then just like the fungible ones as well, which we're doing a lot of work around, kind of equating those. And then, you know, just on like the non-technical stuff, you know, it's interesting that we're on a scaling solution panel, but I actually don't know if the bottleneck for our industry at the moment is technical scalability. I think it's kind of making an inroads. I think a lot of it's educational, partly regulatory too. That like, okay, like we've got financial plumbing here. We could potentially, you know, tokenize real world assets or stocks or whatever it is, but we haven't actually made that penetration yet. That's just one of very many examples. But you know, scalability is kind of a problem at the moment, but I think the larger is just adoption.
Yeah, I'm going to echo what they're saying, which is that adoption is definitely one of the things that I think just everyone in general is not necessarily stuck on, but having some trouble with. There is the education aspect where people like just, there's like this very interesting phenomenon where I'd say like some of the more like notable news stories and like pieces of information that are widely circulated have to do with like either DeFi rugs, layer 1 rugs, like crazy financial stuff happening. And that almost like pushes people away, unfortunately. Well, I mean, it's, yeah. So I think putting more of an emphasis on like ensuring that like there's more, I don't know how to say this properly, but there's just more like gravitas to what we're all doing, and that all of this is sort of taken much more seriously, and that when we take ourselves as an industry more seriously and really put an emphasis on doing things in a way that empower people who are, you know, serious about creating positive or creating and enacting positive change, then that like drips down to the external community who isn't necessarily aware of like how blockchain functions or why like individual sovereign currency is like an important thing. So yeah, just like education, it's all like, yeah, like not necessarily like technical scalability, but just like psychological scalability.
Like I would say at 90% everything that was said before, including the gas costs and all that stuff, because again, like on Ethereum, you have like 14 seconds block time. On Near, you have 1 second block time, like it's just much less compute time. On that note, we did, because we launched mainnet very BRS, we did manage to learn a lot of things and optimize over time for that. So right now it's still possible to hit the maximum gas limit, but at the same time, in any type of sane usage, it's very unlikely you will. And in case you will, please tell us, because we love to learn more and of the use cases. We know a lot about that, but still it's potential that we will learn something new and we will optimize. We work hard together with Nir to do that. And it's all boils down to, I mean, like we have a very long technical roadmap, and for us it's just moving with it and adjusting it and finding use case for new things that we build, like not in the sense of finding use cases, but actual like instances of usages, because we know of the use cases. So I wouldn't say that there are any particular like pains or something. It's just moving down the roadmap more or less.
Okay, one more question. Okay, so we discussed Ethereum scalability, and what I'm taking from this panel discussion is contribution and awareness. The layer 2 EVM is about evangelism of Web3 to make this mass adoption somehow to be implemented. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask answer your question that you have. So
I know a few.
He's asked, do I have like big check? Yes, I do. But the real problem that we are solving is questions that we have like Oracle. It's like working like chaining for us. So